Hey, what's up, guys? And I'm gonna come on and say a few things about HBO Boxing, HBO's final telecast. You know, I remember when it was announced some time back that HBO was officially getting out of boxing. I remember initially feeling some sadness about it. I was gonna come on and do a video talking about it, my memories of HBO, but I never did. Um, And shortly thereafter, I really stopped feeling the sadness and the sympathy, and um, I don't know if I call it anger. I wouldn't say bitterness, but I just kind of came to the realization that HBO was not investing in the sport. That indeed maybe it was just time to move on and support the platforms that are investing in the sport. Like the Zone. Um, and I remember hell before I started watching this replay, which is playing in the background now. But first off, I watched the end of the East Coast feed Sunday morning showing. Now the West Coast feed is playing. The Strata fight is on, but I remember before watching this kind of being like, like I kind of would have forgot if I didn't go through my YouTube feed and seen T Street, saying that goodbye to HBO Boxing, and it was just kind of like like they just kind of gave up. Why I feel sad, why I feel all down about it. Um, let's move on. But I watched the end of this telecast, man, and it really hit home. It really did, man. When they after they showed that sort of highlight montage talking about the history of HBO Boxing, and then they had the credits and they showed more memories, and they played the various music throughout the years from HBO, and man, it just kind of hit me, man. I had tears in my eyes, man. you know um with someone who is 36 at the moment, I can tell you personally my story with HBO. HBO came to my household in the early 90s. I cannot tell you exactly when. I remember when we first got HBO, Rocky Five played a lot during that time period. So this was probably, it could have been maybe 1991 or so. You know, um, I wish I could tell you my first memories of HBO boxing. Uh, but I can tell you that I can remember discovering Roy Jones the week before he fought James Toney. When they had an interview with him and Tony on that weekend's telecast. Can I remember who was fighting on that weekend's telecast? But I remember them going back and forth. I remember seeing highlights of Roy Jones, how fast this guy was, and I thought, wow, and James Toney was an undefeated fighter. I thought, wow, man, I would love to see this fight, but unfortunately, it was pay per view. Did not get to watch that fight live. All right, but that was my discovery of Roy Jones, and then, of course, from that moment on, I got to see, Roy's entire run in the '90s on HBO. I can remember telling, my best friend about, this guy Roy Jones and how he needed to come watch this guy fight, man. And Roy Jones would fight, he'd be over and be watch Roy Jones, get a lot of first round stoppages, a lot of, early fight stoppages, second round. I remember seeing Roy Jones losing his O to, a DQ. And it was just like, the sadness I felt that, seeing, this great fighter, my favorite fighter, losing his O, for those reasons, not because he was, because he lost the fight, because he was getting outboxed or something like that. Um, I remember being, in my childhood home, in my living room, watching live George Foreman KO Michael Moore, man. How amazing that was. George Foreman was, in my eyes, he was just old fat guy, no chance. He was getting outboxed, he was getting beat up, and then all of a sudden, he lands a punch that, from the main angle, it just looked like a slap. Don't even look that hard or heavy, and Michael Moore goes down and out, man, and Jim Lampley with the iconic call, it happened, and George Foreman in the corner, praying. Um, I just remember the shock of that moment, man. It's just, moments with HBO Boxing. You remember where you were, who you were with. Uh, I remember, the Bo Galata fight when that riot happened after the fight. Shockingly, Galata was outboxing Bo, and then he continues the low blow Bo, and then all hell breaks loose after the fight. Saw that live, man. I had never seen anything like that before in my life. A riot breaking out, mayhem, people getting punched off the ring apron, and, police, and it was just nuts. Uh, things like that, man. I remember being in college, in my dorm room, and 2000, 2001. I remember, college cable sucked, and I went to the local cable company, and I bought me a little cable box with HBO. Um, I think it was like at that time it was like maybe like $55 a month. That's that's crazy cheap in 2018. But yeah, I remember having HBO and Showtime, Cinemax, all that shit, and I remember watching Lennox Lewis getting KO'd, by Hakeem Rockman, man, in a shocker, and being arrogant. I was cheering, happy, and glad to see Lennox Lewis get KO'd the way he did, man. See a big time upset. You know, I remember after leaving college, coming back home, sitting in this living room where I am now. Different couch, different TV. And back in 2002, I believe it was 2003, when Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward had their first fight. I remember recording that fight. I'm sure it was still on VCR at that time, and I remember people coming by the house and showing them what that fight was like, how amazing that fight was. Um, Manuel Stewart with the emotional call during that fight, and then watching the other two fights after that, and what's my favorite boxing trilogy. It's the moments like that, man. All of the great memories, Ortiz and Berto, that great fight they had. You know, Oscar De La Hoya and all the fights he had. Of course, Roy Jones. Throughout the '90s and the early 2000s. Unfortunately, I was not watching HBO Boxing Live when Mike Tyson had his run on HBO. I can only imagine if I did, what those memorable nights would have been like, in the '80s. Just tuning in to HBO on Saturday night watching Mike Tyson fights. Those would have been some nice big parties. But um, it really hit me, man, and it's kind of sad to see the way HBO went out, man. I know HBO was not clamoring to show women's fights, man, even though they had two of the biggest names, in brackets, pound for pound, number one undisputed, Clarissa Shields, two-time Olympic gold medalist and title holder, unified. These weren't the necessarily fights that they wanted to show. They just started showing women's fights, a few months ago with HBO, man, which I think was a mistake. They should have been highlighting it for years, but um, they went out, with these two fights, and then the Estrada fight in the middle. Tito got hurt, of course, but they were at the stubhood, man. I was looking at this and I was thinking to myself, where's this fight at, man? Because the crowd appeared to be so small. The background was blacked out. I'm thinking, like, are they in the forum? And turns out, they were in the StubHub, man. StubHub is always electric and lit up, and they show imaging for this like a wide shot with a crowd full, and lights flashing, man. That obviously, clearly, I'm sure that was old imaging, man. That was old camera shots, man. That place looked full in the wide shot, but clearly, man, the crowd is sparse and pretty dead, man. Like this event could have been held in the high school gym, man. It was that small. A sad ending for HBO Boxing, man. Just like most, not, I don't know if I say most, maybe I could say most, but a lot of fighters go out, you know, not on the high level, not a glorious ending, with the big lights, kind of, a sad, quiet ending, man. And that's what it was for HBO, man. Sadly could not get, like a big name, a big pound for pound type name. Everybody's gone. Pacquiao's gone. Canelo's gone. Floyd's gone. All the big names, man. It's just, just sad, man. Hell, I almost just thinking about it just now. Hell, maybe it would have been better. Hell, if they would have got one of their probably, I would probably say Roy Jones is the most iconic HBO fighter because of not only all of his in-ring appearances and his dominant run on HBO as a fighter, but also his commentary, where you combine the both, and I would say he is the most meaningful fighter in HBO boxing history. You know, but hell, maybe I know he's retired and what was Roy 59, whatever. But hell, maybe getting him a easy fight that he should definitely win. Maybe they should have got him in the ring for the final HBO telecast, man. Maybe that would have been more of, I don't know, just more special, I guess. Kind of going out on that note, with a nostalgic feel. But this was kind of, quiet and forgettable, man. Just kind of easily going out the back door, man. Um, I think it would have been nice if HBO would have stuck to putting on the big names and the big fights without starting to charge, without starting to do pay-per-views, man. Just paying them money to have these fights like the Zone is gonna do. I think that would have helped throughout the years, but with the rise of Al Heyman and them leaving HBO and them not doing a deal with Eddie. I think all these things have contributed to to the downfall of HBO, man. And I just wanted to come on and say some things about my experiences with HBO, man. It feel like a part of the sport died, man. A part of the sport died that we're not gonna get back. I think they was talking about maybe doing pay-per-views, but who with who? Who are they gonna get? I mean, everybody's tied up with other networks, or I don't know, man. Unless at some point in the future they try to come back, but I think their new current regime of leadership, they cut back on the budget and they're taking it off the air. It's kind of hard to believe that they're gonna make a comeback. Um, unless at some point Heyman was to leave, Showtime and Fox and bring his stable over or something like that. But I really see it as being the end, man. It's kind of a sad, quiet ending for HBO Boxing. So, I think that's it, guys. I don't think I'm forgetting anything, but I just want to say thank you to HBO Boxing, man. Thank you to everybody who participated throughout the years, the commentators, the fighters, everybody behind the scenes. Grew up on HBO Boxing, man. A lot of memories, a lot of moments with HBO throughout the years, man. You know, as a kid and as an adult, man. I can tell you, hell, what, uh, hell, damn near what 30 years for me. You know, so um, yeah, you guys can let me know what you think, man. How you feel about seeing HBO leave? Um, but I tell you that final highlight montage, man, it got to me. So salute to HBO Boxing. Farewell from me, man. Thank you for all the memories. And if for some reason, somehow, some way you make a comeback, show worthy event, pay per view, whatever. I will support. But thanks again to everybody, and I will check in with y'all soon, man. Thanks for watching.